Good morning and welcome to the Canadian International Auto Show here in Toronto. My name is Patrick Danielson. I am the Manager of Product Strategy and Public Relations for Genesis Motors Canada. Here today with us at the Canadian International Auto Show, we've got a really cool selection of vehicles, but what we're going to spend most of our time talking about today is this, the Genesis GV80 Concept SUV. This is a glimpse into the future of the Genesis brand, a look into a future product that we're going to see a few years down the road. And as much as this is a concept vehicle, and I'll explain what that means in a moment, it's highly representative of future products that we will see in the Canadian marketplace. So what does that word concept mean? It means that it's an opportunity for our designers to showcase their artistic ability, to go a little bit crazy with the design of a vehicle without being constrained by some of the engineering challenges or regulatory challenges that come with building cars. So this GV80 concept vehicle has a lot of interesting styling cues that will become hallmarks of the brand, but it also has a little bit more adventurous touches like these mirrors, which are not actually mirrors, but rather just cameras. So very, very sleek look, but not necessarily legal in a production vehicle. So there's an example of a detail that might change. So what we're going to do is move around to the front of the vehicle. We're going to do a quick walk around. And then at the conclusion of our walk around, we're going to answer some questions that have been submitted to us. And please, if you have any other questions about the GV80 or G70 or any other Genesis product, please send them to us and we will answer them live right here during the Facebook Live. So at the front of the GV80, we're going to see a couple of different things that are going to become very representative of future Genesis models. Number one is the crest grille. This general grille shape is found on all Genesis models today, but here we have an evolution of the design. There's a prominent chrome bar running across the top that gives pride of place to the Genesis badge. And the shape of the grille itself is actually in a shape that's very emblematic of the Genesis wing logo. So if you look at the wing, the way that it has a V at the bottom, we see that same V in the bottom of the grille here, giving that wing shape to the lower part of the grille. One of the most distinctive features of the GV80 are these LED quad headlights. So as we move around to the back, we'll see the same thing, but this quad light look is going to become a signature design element for Genesis going forward, and we already see hints of it today in the front lights of the G70. And this concept vehicle that we have with us actually has fully functional headlights, so we can see here with the low beam on, we have a geometric diamond-like pattern inside the headlight. We can flip on the high beams, and we can even look at the sequential turn signals, which use the shape of the light to help showcase the amber turn signal in the base of the lighting element. So moving along to the side of the vehicle, we see basically that the proportions are perfectly balanced. So Luc Donkervolke, who is our Chief of Design globally, he's worked for a lot of great brands over the years, but now he's leading the Genesis design team, and he's trying to create a signature design language that will apply to all Genesis vehicles going forward. And the core underlying element of that design ethos is perfectly balanced proportions. And we certainly see that along the side of the GV80. So it starts with a fluid roofline that flows cleanly and smoothly into the rear. And the most important element that we have is this parabolic line. So we call it that because it has an arch that rises from the very front of the vehicle, and then the line carries uninterrupted with great tension across the entire rear of the vehicle. So that not only gives the vehicle a taut, muscular look, it also helps connect the front and rear styling elements. We also have these lovely muscular surfaces with large wheel arches with a strong line that helps define them, and then a big negative surfacing area along the bottom that gives dimension and strength to the lower part of the vehicle and helps give it a strong stance on the road. Inside those wheel arches sit 23-inch wheels with what we call a G-matrix mesh pattern. So G-matrix refers to this see-through mesh, and that has a couple of different benefits. Number one, it reduces the weight of the wheel, which improves performance and reduces fuel consumption. And number two, it actually helps draw air in to cool the braking system of the vehicle. And then behind that wheel, you'll see a large fixed caliper with a slotted rotor for better cooling. As we move further along the side of the vehicle, we see that not only do we have those cool mirrors that are actually cameras, we also have completely flush door handles. And on this particular vehicle, they're opened in a pretty interesting way. I simply swipe my finger, the door panel pops open, and then I can pull it open and show you the interior. So inside the GV80, we have exquisite materials like all other Genesis models. On the seats and on the side of the dashboard, we have diamond-stitched quilted Napa leather. Across the top of the dashboard and on the door panels, we have what's called an architecture suede. So it's a soft suede coating with a raised texture to give it a more interesting feel. On the center console, there's slate ash wood. And then all over the vehicle, on the dashboard, the center console, and so on, we have polished aluminum surfaces. And if you look at the floor, you can see that same wood element that carries through the floor of the vehicle. Across the top of the dashboard, there's a 22-inch wide screen that allows the driver and passenger to actually split the functionality and get the functions split simultaneously for the driver and passenger. So closing this door and moving along to the back, we see that same parabolic line carrying to the back of the vehicle. Interesting little element is this polished aluminum piece that sits at the back of the window with the Genesis logo inside. And before we move too far away from here, I'm also going to call out the roof pillars of the vehicle, which have that same G-matrix mesh pattern as the wheels of the vehicle. Moving along to the back, we have that same quad light look that I spoke of at the front of the vehicle. So front and rear, we have this signature quad light look that again will find its way into all future models. We have a very finely sculpted lower rear fascia with cooling apertures for the powertrain. What's unique about the GV80 Concept is it is not powered by a gasoline engine, but rather a plug-in hydrogen fuel cell powertrain. So a hydrogen fuel cell essentially takes hydrogen gas and converts it into electricity right on board. So it's like an EV that can generate its own electricity on the fly. And the only byproduct of this process is pure clean water vapor coming out from underneath the vehicle. In the back, we also see the prominent Genesis wing logo with the Genesis word mark written underneath for a very dramatic look. So, as I mentioned, the GV80 is very much representative of the future of our brand. This is representative of a production model that we will see a couple of years down the road. But for the time being, please join us at the Toronto Auto Show. To see this vehicle in person, you really do need to see it in front of you to appreciate the fine proportions, the lovely details, and the really futuristic design elements of the vehicle. So with that, I'll also mention that we have with us today the G70 Compact Luxury Sports Sedan, the G80 Sport Midsize Sedan, and finally our G90 Flagship Full-Size Luxury Sedan. So I'm happy to answer questions about any of these vehicles. I've already been sent a couple of questions that were submitted in advance, and as I mentioned, I'm happy to answer any other questions that come in live. So starting with the questions that have already come in, we'll go with Chris to start. So Chris asked, will Genesis have a coupe model in the future? Yes, is the short answer to that question. We're pleased to report that Genesis will have a lineup comprised of 6 models by 2021, and the 6th of those models, so the final one to arrive, will be a sporty 2-door coupe. And if I have anything else to add on that, I'll simply say stay tuned for news over the next couple of months, and we might see a hint of that and what's to come. Elizabeth asks, what's the price of the SUV and when will it be available? Well, as we've mentioned, this GV80 Concept SUV is representative of potential future production intent for a mid-size SUV. While it's far too early to discuss anything regarding pricing, I can confirm that we will have not only a mid-size SUV in a few years, but also a smaller compact SUV following closely behind. NH Tran asks, when will there be a sport convertible? Very interesting question. This is a case of never say never. We do not currently have plans for a convertible model, but that is something certainly that would be considered based on consumer demand in the future. Niels would like to know if there are any plans for an electric Genesis. Absolutely. We're currently in the process of evaluating a variety of alternative fuel powertrains, whether it's plug-in hybrids, EVs, or even hydrogen fuel cells. All of these are being considered for inclusion in the future of our Genesis product lineup. And while we can't give specifics as to when we might see that, rest assured that Genesis will always be on the leading edge of alternative powertrains and even existing powertrain technology. Cho Dong-un asks, what are the differences between Korean and North American models? That is an interesting question. As a global automaker, we actually tailor our products not only from a packaging standpoint, but even from a tuning standpoint, depending on the market that we sell the vehicle in. So there will be some differences between a G70 sold in Korea and one that will be sold in North America. Some of those things will be technologies found inside the car. There are some exclusive technologies that are found in the Korean models that take advantage of the really high-tech map software that's available in the Korean market. And then the tuning of the car will also change. So in North America, expect cars like the G70 to be a little bit firmer, a little bit sharper in the way that they handle in recognition of the driving habits of North American consumers. Elizabeth also wants to know what are the prices for all the models. So that's another very good question. Pricing for the G70, which is available for pre-order online now, has not yet been announced, but we do expect it to be very comparably priced to other compact luxury sports sedans and expect the pricing to be announced closer to the vehicle's launch this spring. Our G80 midsize sedan starts at $55,000 or $62,000 for the sport model we have here on the floor, with the top level 5-liter model at $65,000. And finally, our G90 flagship comes only in one variation with a choice of engines. We have $84,000 for the 3.3 twin turbo, and we have $87,000 for the 5-liter V8. And it's worth noting that the pricing for all Genesis models is not only completely transparent, it's also all-inclusive. So for that price that I just quoted, let's say $62,000 for the G80 Sport, there are no additional fees. Delivery and destination or any administration fees that are sometimes charged on vehicles are fully included in the price of the car, and all scheduled maintenance and at-home service are included in the price of the vehicle for 5 years. That means that you get 5 years of truly stress-free ownership experience with one clear, easy-to-understand price. Moving on, Jorge has asked, will there be a sport model? There's going to be sporting derivatives of all Genesis models. So in the case of the G70, that is the G70 Sport models, we have a 6-speed manual 2-liter model with a 4-cylinder engine, 255 horsepower. We'll also have the blue car that we see here on the floor, which is the twin turbocharged V6 model with 365 horsepower, 376 pound-feet of torque, and a variety of high-performance components like Brembo brakes, Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires, and a mechanical limited slip differential. Now, moving on to some of the questions that we've been receiving live. Colin wants to know whether there will be a hybrid version. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, hybrid technology is one thing that we are considering as part of our alternative fuel strategy for Genesis in the future. We will announce more details on that in the coming years, but for the time being, all Genesis models have highly advanced gasoline engines. And David would also like to know how much of the interior will make it into production. So of course, there are certain elements in the interior that would not make it to a production model, but many of the details in the interior are, again, representative of the future design intent for the Genesis GV80. And certainly you can always rest assured that elements like the exquisite materials, the attention to detail, the highly ergonomic layout of the interior, all of these things would be in not only the GV80, but any future Genesis model. Okay, so that about covers it for the questions that we have for the time being. As I mentioned, if you join us here at the Canadian International Auto Show, which opens today at noon to the public and runs until February 26th, you can see our full lineup of sedans, G70, G80, G90, as well as that glimpse into the future, which is the Genesis GV80 Concept SUV. Lots of exciting things here to talk about. All of our product representatives will be on site and ready to answer any questions that you might have. And of course, we are always available to answer questions on Facebook, Instagram, or any other social media platform after the conference is over. So with that, thank you very much for your time and enjoy the auto show.